Welcome back to the Geekcentric podcast, and welcome to our watch club for Marvel's WandaVision. Bermuda, baby! Welcome to Watch Club. My name is Nate, and here we are in full Technicolor with episode 3, titled Now in Color. We got Herb acting kind of strange. We have a slightly misogynistic doctor, a stork, and even more mysteries to uncover as we dive deep and give you our thoughts on this week's episode. But first, if you're joining us for the first time, this is Watch Club, our weekly review series, kind of like book club, but way better. Keep in mind, we will be going into full spoilers, not only for this series, but the MCU in general. So if you haven't watched this week's episode, be sure to do so, and then come right back in a snap. Before we enter back into the lovely town of Westview, let me introduce you all to my fellow agents of S.W.O.R.D. On the show, we have, with me as always, the joint token, jelly-brained jive turkey of Jersey, Justin.
Yo, see you on the flip side, bruh.
Okay, I guess that's it. And on a secret assignment in the depths of the multiverse, he's mean, he's keen, and he can kiss my wrist while wearing killer kicks. He's Kevin Hudson.
Yeehaw! I don't know. Woo!
I was going for like a 70s. I'm going for a 70s thing. You psychedelic cool cats.
Yeah,
I don't
that's
know.
why I said see you on the flip side. Isn't that what
There
Herb
you go.
says in the episode? So I thought that was...
I think he does.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wonder what that even does. That mean something on the flip side, guys?
Oh, yeah, we'll get into it.
Guys, before we dive right into that plot, let's get a brief overview. I want your high-level thoughts on the episode. Kevin, go.
I thought there were a lot of very interesting sort of Easter eggs and whatnot throughout the episode. Just alluding to a lot of things that have happened in comics. I mean, as the show goes on, I'm kind of finding myself digging deeper into that sort of side of it, just to see, where the inspiration's coming from and everything. So that was a lot of fun to sort of dissect. I must say that I found it the least interesting of the three, I think. Like last week with that Magic Act, it was just such a brilliant piece of sitcom storytelling and writing and everything. And then this week, the episode was a little flat outside of the very intriguing stuff going on. And I think it's trying to do both, so both are kind of important,
Yeah, I think in terms of the Easter eggs and the sort of relationship to the comics and what they're bringing in from the comics into the episode, that really stood out to me. I can see why the first 2 episodes plus this episode was released to a variety of people early on, just to kind of really set up for this whole experience. So it kind of makes me wish that they had released all 3 episodes at the same time, because this really does kind of like on an upward scale just kind of take you into that weirdness right up until the end of the episode. That was still very cool. But yeah, like to Kevin's point, I think the situation wasn't necessarily as riveting as the other 2 were. Like the magic show was really comical and interesting, and it just lacked a little bit more of that sort of sitcom magic that I really appreciated in even the first 2 episodes. So it was still good though. It's just I wasn't blown away by it.
Yeah, I mean maybe it's maybe I'm not as familiar with 70s sitcoms specifically, to the point where like I just didn't, to your point, I didn't catch a lot of like, I don't know, 70s-isms. Like, yes, they were the clothing and the theme. I thought they hit that. But yeah, as far as the sitcom aspect was concerned, I do agree with you guys. I think it did fall a little flat. I actually didn't catch as many Easter eggs on this episode. And I honestly think going forward, they might sort of lay off the Easter eggs here and there a little more as the show starts to sort of maybe open up and become, we start to see the plot sort of take over. Because I think like, yeah, it's fun to have those Easter eggs in lieu of the plot. Like if the plot's not there, if it's not moving forward, so you can have something to chew on and talk about and have fun with. So I think we'll see less and less. But I am interested to see, Kevin, what you happen to catch. But guys, let's get right into that plot. We start with a lovely, I think it was actually really nice. I actually like the song a lot. 70s style opener as we see Wanda and Vision enjoying their last few moments before parenthood while riding around town preparing for the big day. I only noticed a couple of interesting things in it. in the opening. But before I get to that, Kevin, as our resident TV expert, what shows were they going for this one?
I think this one was big time Brady Bunch. You saw it at the end there with the title sequence. It was very much that. But even the interior of the living room was full on a Brady Bunch sort of. The stairs, there's the brick wall, the step down into the living room area. It was very much based on that. And then just really quickly in terms of sort of plot elements, it was very much similar to an episode of Mork and Mindy.
Oh, really?
Mork, who has the baby.
Okay.
But anyway, so you can see where they got that sort of element of the plot from, was definitely that Mork and Mindy episode. But then a lot of the other aesthetic details were very much Brady Bunch. So I did call that one last week.
There you go. And I think the song was very like Partridge Family, right? Like sort of like
For sure.
the family singing together. Yeah. Justin, did you notice anything strange going on in that opening sequence? Did you catch anything?
I didn't catch anything. I only watched it once. The other shows I actually, like, for episode 1 and 2, I watched them twice. So unfortunately, I didn't watch it again. But yeah, I think to feed into the nostalgia, the time period, they really did lean hard in terms of the aesthetics from the intro right into, the set design and the clothing for it to feel very 70s. Again, another episode moving forward with the idea of like just paying homage to the history of television, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, and again, I thought the opening was really well done for the 70s homage and the scene and the clothing and stuff like that. But yeah, like sort of you could clearly see you could almost replace Dick Van Dyke or Vision with Dick Van Dyke in like the previous episode, and it could have just been a Dick Van Dyke show. Whereas with this one, I didn't really catch those moments. But I definitely, during that opening, I kept noticing, like you guys are noticing the hexagons, right? Everywhere, right? Which is interesting because they look like honeycombs, and there's this theory that Westview operates like a beehive, right? Like with Wanda as like the queen bee, and we saw a beekeeper at the end of last week's episode.
Beekeeper? Okay, I like that idea.
Right? Sure. And I think even Geraldine in this episode is wearing hexagon earrings. So you lots of hexagons everywhere, and also like the word hex. But I also liked in the opening, you see Wanda reading she's reading Glamorous magazine, and on the front it says "Lovely legs can take you anywhere." And on the back of the magazine it's like some lagoon or some getaway spot, right? So it's like there's so much emphasis on travel or lack thereof it, as we we tend to see in this episode. And then every single opener so far that we've seen, it's fun to watch because there's at least one thing that it's going to give away in the plot. And so, obviously us being comic book fans, or at least ancillary comic book fans, MCU fans, we knew that, she was probably going to have 2 kids. But during the opening, you get to see Vision, and he's putting together a swing set, and there's 2 swings. Right. And it's just there's so much foreshadowing that goes on in that opening scene. It's just cool. I love how intentional it is. But then we open up with a shot of the house, which is such a 70s thing, right? Like the shot of the home first. I guess that started in the 70s. I remember it from a lot of shows in the 90s, but we get this comedic moment with a doctor he's pretty sexist. He keeps saying things like, we let the little ladies keep tabs on their growing babies with fruit or something like that. It makes it simpler for them.
Yeah, we dumb it down for them.
Yeah, it's just like, wow, okay. Nice, doctor. After lying to the doctor as to not give away the strangeness that is a 4-month pregnancy within 12 hours, Vision walks Dr. Nielsen out of the house, and Vision asks the good doctor if he can keep the news of the pregnancy to his discretion. The doctor is off to his vacation in Bermuda, and not 5 minutes into this episode, we get our first moment of illusion breaking, with Herb cutting past the hedges into the seemingly fake brick property divider. Guys, we talked about, on our last episode, how we hoped that this show would speed up the weirdness. Is this the kind of pace you guys were expecting for this, at least for this episode so far?
I liked it. It was short and sweet, but sort of got to the punch, right? Like it gave you something right at the beginning,
Yeah.
Just to kind of show that things are getting worse and worse for whatever's happening with Wanda as we go along, right?
Yeah. I think it was eerie, right? And the fact that in that moment, when we're starting to notice as a viewer how eerie that is, so too is Vision, right? Like he's like, that's pretty strange what he's doing, right? Like it's almost like he's kind of in the same place as we are at times. Like he's playing along, but then you'll kind of snap out of it and be like, there's something not right. Just seeing how he was and just kind of dead stare at him as he just continued to cut through this wall. Like it was just kind of like, is the Matrix glitching? Do you know what I mean?
Right.
Like it kind of felt like that, right?
And his eyes are like wide open as he's doing it, and then he's like, "Oh, thank you. I didn't notice that." Cool. So then Vision enters back into the house after only being gone for about 2 minutes to find Wanda is now 6 months pregnant. And after a lame papaya joke, we cut to the scene where they're building the baby crib. Wanda causes the butterflies to come to life, and the two argue over whether or not to name the baby Billy or Tommy. So, Justin, before we continue, I was wondering if you could catch us up to speed, no pun intended, on who Billy and Tommy might be from the comics.
Yeah, so in the comics, Billy Kaplan and Tommy Shepard is what they're known as.
Okay.
And they're actually introduced in Alan Heinberg and Jim Cheung's 2005-2006 Young Avengers series. And they're actually introduced as Wiccan and Speed. Now, Billy, who is very much like Wanda, has the magical powers and is part of the Young Avengers pretty early on. Tommy, however, the twin brother, has Petro's speedster abilities, if you will. And like their resemblance is noted immediately by the groups of Young Avengers, and it's pretty much confirmed that they're reincarnations of Wanda and Vision's children, which we'll get into a little bit more detail. I'd like to maybe save another portion of their history.
Yeah.
Beyond their impressive pedigree, both Billy and Tommy are notably both LGBTQ characters in the Marvel universe. So, to see these two names show up, these two characters, it's pretty interesting, right? Especially with the fact that like the Marvel universe seems to be going in a direction of building Young Avengers. We do 100%. Have the new Hawkeye played by Haley Steinfeld. We have Cassie Lang, who's in the Ant-Man series.
And she's going to be in Quantumania, yeah.
Yeah, she's going to be in Quantumania.
We got Iman coming in as Miss Marvel.
Yep, and then we also have America Chavez, who will be appearing in Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. So it's like there's already seeds for a Young Avengers group, so it's kind of fitting that they're brought in.
Yeah, Kevin, are you stoked to kind of, do you think that's the way we're going to go? Do you think it's Young Avengers? And if so, is that something you'd want?
I don't want there to be like 10 different factions that you sort of have to follow as we go along here. But if that's the direction they're going, I mean, I'll wait and see if they are going to sort of have them assemble, if you will. But for now, I'm more interested in, given the backstory of these two characters, Tommy and Billy in the comics, I don't even know, if they're even real.
I love, again, this comes back to the dialogue. I love like that line that, after Vision discovers that Wanda's 6 months pregnant, he says, "Boy, oh boy. And I thought I had super speed. I can't keep up." Right. And so with Tommy being the speed, character, I think that's super cool.
Well, and even just on that note, when have we ever known Vision to have super speed? Right. And so
True.
And so it's clear that for whatever reason, her brother becomes quite relevant in this episode, and obviously, and so was she sort of imparting the speed she remembers from her brother into Vision in this fantasy?
I just always thought that Vision did have super speed. I don't know. I can't remember.
Seen it. It's not something I'm familiar with, right?
Interesting. And then we get another subtle nod to, I think, some foreshadowing, where he talks about Billy, like he wants to name it Billy, and, a nod to William Shakespeare. And he's like, all the world's a stage and all the men and women, many players. Like that's got to be referencing the fact that all of Westview are just a bunch of actors, right? Like, yeah, 100%. Like, I think that's kind of the way they're going there.
Yeah,
but,
absolutely.
So we move to the scene where Vision is practicing his diaper changing, and Wanda's contractions cause a blackout. And luckily, Phil won't have to answer whether he thinks Dottie's earrings make her look fat. At that moment, he's like, thank God.
That was probably my only like laugh out loud.
Laugh out loud,
sure,
yeah.
That guy's getting some killer moments so far in the show.
It's cool though. Like again, not as many Easter eggs, but little things that I think are more foreshadowing. The lamp in Phil's house, the post on the lamp is actually a statue of two kids. And the newspaper says 2 fire hydrants on it, but it cuts off, of course, right where it says Hydra. I just thought that was awesome.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So you got to catch that. And then Wanda worries, that their neighbors are always on the verge of discovering their secret, kind of like how as an audience we're always on the verge of discovering these secrets. But
yes,
Vision starts to express his concern and recalls all the weird things they've experienced over the last few days. This is probably one of my favorite moments in the episode. The camera starts panning in, and we get these ominous strings, kind of more definitely not 70s music.
That's breaking.
And we get we get a very unsettling jump cut back to before Vision started questioning things. Did you guys think that this was an issue with your Wi-Fi?
No.
No.
Yeah, I honestly, for a second, I was like, I literally did
it does happen so fast,
go back
though, that
15
it
seconds.
could be interpreted that way. But like even if you blinked, you probably would have missed it and been like, "Oh, what just happened? Did it just jump back?" Like you would have,
right?
But I think you would have clued in pretty quickly that again, it's the same because we already saw it in a different representation in the previous episode. We're seeing it again, right? Like again, this idea of I don't want to hear it. I'm gonna just turn this back.
She kind of blinks, right? Or she she blinks her eyes.
Yeah.
In terms of the little elements that they're incorporating in every episode to sort of reflect the technology of the time, like the purposefully bad CGI effects in the first episode, where it's clearly not. It's very intentional, and so just this sort of. Shoddy editing clipped back together sort of second.
Yeah, it was like tape.
It was. I just love how they really make it look authentic in that regard.
Some nice music starts playing, and then instead of the eerie music, Vision starts comforting Wanda and saying, if he's anything like his mother, Billy will be perfect. Again, reincarnation of Wanda, Billy being, I think you mentioned Wiccan, the magical of the two. So very cool. And then she has more contractions, and then her water breaks, causing a torrential downpour. But then we cut to commercial. Guys, what did you think of the Hydra Soak commercial and how amazing that mom's perfect 70s hair was?
Well, I think the reference that you made about travel and the idea of like creating like your own vacation, your own sort of experience. It's kind of what we're in right now with Wanda, right? Like she's creating her own sort of experience, her own sort of way of kind of world that she can travel to and that she can get lost in. There seems to be that association with the Hydra Soak, right? Like you can't get away, right? But maybe refreshing your skin with this Hydra Soak, right?
Yeah, I think the line is like when you want to get away, but you don't want to go anywhere.
Exactly,
right? Yeah.
So and I think that also like again, kind of each of these commercials hinting at Easter eggs of her past. First one being about Stark, the second one being about Strucker, this one being about her time being held captive by Hydra. You know what I mean? Like I think that's obviously what the product's name kind of is insinuating as part of her history and where she comes from.
Very cool. Kevin, did you enjoy this this commercial?
Yeah, I almost found the sort of nods to things or what the Easter eggs, if you will, not to
I was going to ask
term. But they were a little more subtle than the last two, I thought, other than obviously the name of the soap.
That was a little on the nose, yeah.
I did hear a small theory from our resident Marvel expert. That would, of course, be my brother Darcy, who I believe will be joining us on next week's episode. So he speculated that like his big theory going out of this is that AIM are sort of responsible for what's going on. But not that they're involved. Obviously, we all know that. But he thinks they're controlling everything. And what they want to do is unleash the inner goddess, if you will, of Wanda herself. She's got basically got the powers of a god. And so,
Right.
you know, the goddess within and everything like that, he really thinks they're hammering home on that. So yeah, I think really just the find the goddess within line was maybe key to what's going on there. They really want her to sort of unleash her full potential, but we'll see.
Yeah, I know there was some there was a character in the comic books that had something to do with like Agnes coming back to life. Like Agnes was dead, and they had to awaken some goddess or something like that. So I'm wondering if almost that has something to play with it. But it's just cool that they can kind of take. I like how vague they are with it, so they can kind of take it anywhere. Right? We can get these nods to maybe it is Hydra, maybe it's Stark, maybe it's. It's these demonic characters from the Marvel comics, but yeah, I'm digging these commercials.
Well,
I'm so happy it's the same two people every single time as well.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised if, as they move forward, we start to see other, like maybe we see something with, a Thanos and, the importance of that, or an Ultron. Probably we'll see that before we would see a Thanos, obviously, right? So, I think
if we get like a 90s style commercial with like an Ultron action figure or something like that.
That would be like, you know what I mean? Like, that would
dope.
be pretty interesting, right? But
Yeah.
Ultron himself, like in the comics, ends up becoming a fairly interesting character and kind of goes the same trajectory as Vision and Wanda, becoming like a suburbanite,
Yes.
living and having his own sort
In
of...
the Old Man Logan
Yeah,
comics, that's
yeah.
how it happens. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but that,
Very
like,
cool.
it'd be so weird if he just randomly showed up in an episode and like he was like their neighbor or something like that. Like,
That would be dope. That would be dope. So back from commercial break, Vision runs off to find the doctor, and Wanda hears something strange coming from the baby's room. There's a ring at the door, and lo and behold, Geraldine shows up. We get these great comedic scenes of Wanda like hiding her pregnancy, and also, there's a live stork that shows up. Until Geraldine finally discovers the baby's room and that Wanda is indeed pregnant.
This is actually where I thought that it was a missed opportunity, because I loved that they were poking fun at all the different ways that like sitcoms use to hide
Yes.
an actress on the show being pregnant. And so like they did the jacket, then they did the bowl of fruit, and that was it. And she just held it for like 5
True.
minutes.
Yeah.
If she had been going around to different objects, moving things so that they would block it and stuff, they
Right,
could have
going
had
to a certain
lot
counter.
of fun with that
Yeah.
5-minute scene instead of it was a little dry with her talking about the story at work and stuff. And so I just think they could have she could have run behind the counter in the kitchen, something like that, just to sort of constantly be hiding it. So I thought that was a small missed opportunity.
It's funny though, like to your point, they use that as like a huge crutch in the first like probably 2 to 3 minutes of that scene, and then it suddenly became about like a giant stork randomly appearing, right? And then it was like that's why she was like having to like listen
And
to
even
the story.
and even the stork thing wasn't as well executed, I didn't think, because she just kept saying ooh ooh, right? And if you were talking with somebody and they started going ooh, you would look around or you would react differently.
Right.
If she had been saying things that fit into her story, a little bit more, and oh yeah, you're right, and Geraldine could have played off of that a bit more. So again, I just thought that's what they had done so well in those first 2 episodes, was take a classic sitcom situation and put our characters in it. And so that was just a small chunk of that episode that really bummed me out a little.
Yeah, it definitely sort of slowed down in that moment, right? Like I think that might have been the first time where I just sort of was like, okay, what's next? Like, go next, right? Where in the previous 2 episodes, I think the pacing was a bit better done, at least from that scene. I thought this show and this episode, from a pacing standpoint, was nice and fast, but that scene did definitely slow down. Wanda goes into labor, and in that moment, Geraldine has to help deliver the baby. Then Vision returns with the doctor just in time to meet his son. We get this sweet moment where Wanda asks Vision if he wants to see his son, or wants his son to see him with his real face. But then, boom, 2 babies. So just out of nowhere, there's 2 babies. They get 2 babies now. And there's that great moment where Vision leans in and she just screams in his face. Then they name the 2 babies Tommy and Billy, and all seems well. Vision walks the good doctor out again and mentions how he hopes him and his wife will still be able to get away on their trip. And we get another glitch with an eerie line of dialogue with the doctor saying, well, that's the thing. with small towns, so hard to escape. And they linger on that moment just, nice and long there. We then see Agnes and Herb. A lot of people are calling him Herb, but I think his name's Herb, whispering, and Vision walks over to see what's up. Agnes asks if Geraldine is inside with Wanda and mentions to him that she has no family, no husband, and no home. Then Herb says she came here because we're all... And then Agnes cuts him off and says, Stop it! And just very similar to that first episode that we saw with the boss's wife doing the same thing. And they kind of play it off like it's nothing after that. So I got to ask, guys, before we continue, what was Herb going to say? Kevin, what was Herb going to say here? What was the next word?
Something about, being actors of some sort. Oh. I just don't know who they're acting for. Okay. Are they Wanda's creation, or are they put there by AIM or Sword, whoever's running the show here, in order to sort of manipulate her decisions?
That's an interesting name drop, AIM. If we're going to see them return into the MCU, that would be interesting if they play a part in this.
See, I feel like they can't. I don't think they would be as worried about Monica Rambeau if they were Sword. You know what I mean? Like maybe AIM, sure, maybe something else, but I don't think they would be as worried about Monica Rambeau if they were Sword indeed, right?
Well, I think the person that's worried is Agnes, right? She's 100% worried. Mm-hmm. And I think if anything, if it is the two of them, or at least Wanda creating these representations of these characters that are in this world, they're all kind of sort of aware of what part they play in this world. Do you know what I mean? Like, right. Yeah. It kind of makes me think now that the people that are in there, like a Truman Show, are in on it. Yeah. Right?
I think he was going to say trapped. Like, I think even though that sounds obvious, I think he was going to say trapped.
I mean, they did just allude to it in the previous scene with the doctor, right?
Right. Just being like, it's so hard to leave. But
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I have some more theories on that, but I'll get to that later. Meanwhile, inside the house, Geraldine says, "Can you believe it? Twins." To which Wanda replies, "I was a twin. Mm-hmm. I had a brother. His name was Pietro." In her original accent. Kevin, it came back. Yeah. It came back. You were so excited.
Thanks.
Yeah. She started singing the song, right?
The Sokovian lullaby.
Yeah.
And then Geraldine says, she turns to her and, "He was killed by Ultron, wasn't he?" She kind of like really goes out of her Geraldine character. Wanda notices the sword symbol on Geraldine's necklace. And then she goes into full defensive mama bear mode and just like, back up, Geraldine, and asks Geraldine to leave. She then forces her to leave. Vision runs back in and discovers Wanda alone with the babies, all creepy-like, and she lies to him about Geraldine's whereabouts. Then the screen goes into widescreen aspect ratio for the first time so far. I know it's only been 3 episodes. But then we see probably the most of the real world that we've seen so far. We get this awesome moment. Geraldine, boom, shot out of the pocket reality, flying out of the perimeter surrounding Westview onto the ground where she's seemingly rescued by Sword. Guys, I know that's a lot, but that's pretty much the episode there. Guys, give me your thoughts. First off, where did Geraldine end up, and what did you think of these sort of realm-breaking moments?
In the preview, there was a shot that looks like Monica being fired out of this thing, and then she lands into the scene that we got. I still think that there might be some sort of like a flashback, or maybe the next episode kind of starts with that sort of like picking up, because we might start to see, now that we've been introduced to outside that bubble, we might get a little bit more of what's going on out there now.
Interesting.
This might have been the point of where they say, okay, now let's show you what's on the other side of this world, right? We've kept you in here for 3 episodes. Let's introduce it. So this might be how they break up the sitcom thing, where it's like, maybe we bounce out, we get a little bit more perspective of what's going on the outside, and then we go back in for another. But, who knows? But it's interesting just to see, to your point, how they shifted the aspect ratio for the filming, and everything just got a little bit more of that, like, cinematic grit to it. It
Yeah.
didn't have that, traditional TV style. So it was obviously an actual real life place, not a set.
Yeah.
So it really does transcend you into the alternate.
Yeah, like Westview's a real place, right?
Yes, it looks
I'm
like
assuming,
an
right?
abandoned town of some kind,
Something
right?
like that.
Catching that.
Very cool.
There's a water tower there as well.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I
You
caught.
kind of see like houses in the background with lights on.
Yeah, and they're all,
which
but
is-
it looks like some of them were abandoned, right? Like it looks like it's a pretty, like not necessarily and I think we'll see more of like as the mold starts to break again from just things that we've seen in the trailer. Who knows?
Yeah.
They might not necessarily include it in, but obviously there's a moment where you see the perfect house and reality breaks and it's like an abandoned house, right? So it's like who knows where they are and what environment it is, right?
Kevin, do you think that's got to be Sword rescuing her, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
So obviously she was in there, blew her cover, and and so does the fact that Wanda, at least we think, shoots her out of this
Pocket
bubble,
reality,
whatever we want to call it right now, would indicate that she's aware of what's going on, right? And so has she created this to sort of protect herself from the outside world?
Interesting.
But who put up the walls? I'm just very curious about, again, who are the players and who's running the show here, and to what extent. I think it's going to be both players are having different roles in what's going on. But I got to just say quickly, the last 6 minutes as that was all breaking down, and while Vision's talking to the neighbors and getting the story, like that was such a great tension-filled scene. Again, I just wish that first 20 minutes or whatever of that episode had been better done. It was. I wish it was better. I wish there was a bit more care put into what we were watching, so that it would be like, it was kind of a flat, almost boring, I hate to say it, episode.
Mm-hmm.
And so when this came in, it was like a relief. But if we had been, having a fun time with everything and really hitting, cliches, sitcom stereotypes,
a little more comedy.
And then it, shifted into that's what makes it work so well in those previous episodes. And I didn't get that real shift in feeling from it. It was like meh to, oh, okay, that's cool. Yeah, unfortunately.
Just to go off one point that Kevin was making there, I think 100%. This is another, clear affirmation that Wanda is in control and knows what's going on. And there's been one in every episode. There's been one moment in every episode where she
Wanda's
clearly
controlling it.
is in control.
I think it's interesting because we've clearly Geraldine is from Sword. The townsfolk are against her. Right, because they instantly rejected her. I think we've got Agnes as a separate player from both the townsfolk or Sword, and it's like even that moment where Agnes, Vision's walking up to them, and Agnes says Tommy's name, like she knows what's going on, like she knows even without seeing it, what's happening. So I've got a prediction. I'm sure we all do, but guys. Let's hear it. What is your if you have any more final thoughts, or what is your final score? And this time we're going to rate the episode on a scale of 1 to 5 Hydra soak bars. Justin.
I'm with Kevin. I think that there was some really flat, boring parts of this episode that were just kind of like, nostalgic TV moments for the sake of nostalgic TV moments. But when the reality broke in certain scenes, and the introduction of the kids, and at the end, obviously, as we've discussed in great length, those moments at least saved what would have been a very mediocre episode. But because of how mediocre it is, I'm going to give this one a 3.275 Hydra soap bars. I would give this episode.
Oh man, that wasn't awkward at all. Kevin, what is your?
My overall impression was, again, I think the ending really saved it. I mean, there's intrigue and obviously a character going from not pregnant to a miraculous conception to having twins 24 hours later. I just thought the sort of storytelling around that, which is of one of my favorite aspects of the show, was very much lacking. At least the last 6 minutes really sort of gave us a lot to think about and chew on and get excited for the next episode. So while it's my least favorite episode of the show, and therefore it won't receive nearly the scores I gave the first two episodes, I'm going to give this one a 3.6. I'm not feeling too dirty on that episode, so I only need 3.6 Hydra soap bars.
Hydra soap bars
Yeah.
to get away without going anywhere. I enjoyed the last act of this episode, like we were saying. I think as it starts to really unravel the mysteries of the show, or even bring up new ones. Again, to your point, up until that last act, it's a little slow. It's a little boring, so to speak. I think they nailed the aesthetic, but again, they didn't nail the 70s tropes, or at least I didn't see them. And I think I'm familiar with them. Anyways, I'm still very much intrigued to see, the more that this show has up its sleeves. And I think the more that it unveils, the more intense and dark it's going to get. So I'm all in for that. Like, I want it to get dark, because she's going to realize that Vision is dead. And it's just going to be, so sad. I want to stay within the dream. But I'm really enjoying the vibe for the show. But yeah, to the idea of like the scores that I gave the last episode, I'm gonna go down a little bit. I'm gonna give this one a 3.5 Hydra soak bars out of 5. Somebody used one of my Hydra soak bars a little bit, and I'm really upset about it. But of course, at the end of every episode, we like to give any and all predictions we have for the series so far in a segment that we call What's the Vision? So Kevin, what's the vision? Any predictions for what shows we might see influences from in our next episode?
Yeah, again, because I'm not as familiar with the comics as some viewers might be, I think that'll be my focus, sort of, because I do think that they're going to keep up the sitcom thing for at least, another 2 or 3 episodes before we get the full reality break. At least I'm hoping.
Yeah.
At least I'm hoping. And so as we move into the 80s, I can see, them going with like an all in the family kind of vibe. You might get a little Who's the Boss. You might get, some Cosby Show dingers. I'm not sure, but I think it's going to be like sort of an all in the family vibe. Again, another wholesome family environment that Wanda can sort of take inspiration from to try and block out the impending doom that's coming for as long as she wants. And so, yeah, I'm going to go with all in the family, and then look out for a swinging kitchen door. Every family in the 80s had they just decided, you know what this kitchen needs is a door.
That swings. There's going to be a swinging kitchen door, and you could get a lot of fun going through that door and doing something very sitcom-y, and so that's what I'm hoping for to see, is their trope that they sort of hit on. We'll get another 3.6 if there's no swinging door. You hear that, Marvel?
You got it, even less.
Justin, what's the vision?
Well, we were talking about the introduction of Wanda's kids, Tommy and Billy. They're obviously from the comic book history. Turns out that Thomas and William were magically created from lost pieces of the villain Mephisto's soul. They were kidnapped and reclaimed by Mephisto's proxy. Who absorbs them into his arms. Now, I was looking at some pictures of this. Like, this is this is a comic story. And it's pretty terrifying to see this, drawing of this guy with,
oh my
gosh, coming out of his hands. Like, it's,
it's
really weird. It's really, really weird.
That's awesome.
So, you were kind of bringing this up, Kev. I do think these kids might not be real. Or if they are real, they'll become real because of the multiverse and maybe Wanda trying to bring them over because of her own attachment and, her creation of it. But I also think that this is yet another hint of Mephisto's involvement in this storyline. There was another article that I had read following this episode. I think it was on Variety, actually. Or no, Verge. Actually, it was on The Verge. And they also brought up the point in episode 2 about Agnes saying, responding to Dottie's comment, the devil's in the details. Well, that's not the only place he is. This writer assumed that she's speaking of her husband that we have yet to meet as being the physical representation of Mephisto in this world, and that in some way Agnes is associated. And I actually think that that's a very interesting theory to kind of connect those two characters, because we both we all think that there's something not right about Agnes, right?
Yeah.
Whether she's being possessed or if she's in control of this thing, or she's as much helping build this imaginary world with Wanda. Because who knows, right? Like, this obviously has come out of her grief. Who knows if Wanda didn't go to Agnes or met Agnes, and Agnes has helped her to kind of, with the power of Mephisto, have regression and create this sort of safe place that is just is creating like this pocket of energy, and that's why Sword's involved. So there's a lot to obviously unpack with what's going on, but with what that's already been dropped in these 3 episodes thus far, I feel like Mephisto is going to play a part, and his association with Doctor Strange.
He's got to.
Yeah,
he's got to.
He's going to be, if we don't see him in a physical representation, just how we saw Dormammu in Doctor Strange, maybe we see a representation of Mephisto in the same sort of style,
kind of ethereal being.
Exactly.
I like that. I like that theory. I like the idea of maybe getting to a moment where Wanda has to decide between bringing Vision back or keeping her children. Right. I think would be really, really cool. Like her she can make her children real, but she has to make that decision. Because I don't think that Vision necessarily needs to be a big part of the MCU going forward. Whereas, as we've already discussed, the kids, I think, are going to play a role in Young Avengers. Yeah, for my what's the Vision, I could go one of 2 theories, right? Like Wanda has either taken over this small town and all these actual real human beings are trapped there, or this is a plan to rescue Vision from the dead, right? Like, as you were saying, like she's suffering in her grief, and she just will do anything to bring him back, and she's a witch, right? So obviously she might seek out another witch, i.e. Agnes, and maybe all these people are technically dead, right? And these are their trapped souls. Like, they can't go to heaven or hell. They're just trapped there. And this is all a plan that was cooked up by both Wanda and Agnes originally, but things have gotten out of hand. So, like, I love that theory. I like that. I think it just works so well. And then we've got Sword coming in to sort of be like, okay, we need to get Wanda out of this. We need to save her. But what they don't realize is that she's a huge part of what she's put herself into. So it'll be really interesting to see how that all nets out. But if there is no swinging door in at least one more episode, I'm probably gonna stop watching. But guys, that is it. We hope you enjoyed this week's groovy episode of Watch Club. Make sure to subscribe to us wherever you like to listen to podcasts. Tune in next week to hear our thoughts on episode 4. And also, if you didn't know, we also have more than just Watch Club. We also have a regular episode, our regular episodes of the Geekcentric podcast, with our first episode up now, so you can definitely go check that out. And our second episode of the year, where we're going to look forward to all of the wonderful movies, TV shows, games, and collectibles coming in the not-too-distant future in 2021. Justin, Kevin, thank you so much for joining me for today's Watch Club. And as we say, WandaVision.